All right. Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. My name is Hani Azzam. I'm going to co-moderate today's discussion. But first, I want to quickly introduce Viaka and our sponsors. Viaka today is a global platform drawing founders, investors, and professionals all over the world who share ties to the Middle East and North Africa. Our work today is centered on three main pillars. So we have Viaka Connect, Capital, and Consult. Viaka Connect represents our community, really. We have about 3,000 people in our orbit today. They attend our in-person events. They tune in for webinars like this. They receive our monthly newsletter. They follow us on social media. And we're in the process of formalizing this a bit in the form of seven global city hubs or city chapters. So if you're in any of the locations on the screen, by all means, get in touch if you're interested in being involved. We have events actually coming up in the next couple of weeks in both London and in Toronto. So would love to see as many of you there as possible. Viaka Consult is the arm that we use to basically organize the experienced professionals, freelancers, experts, mentors, you name it, these people that bring a really great depth of expertise to the table, organize them to execute high quality programs for accelerators, governments, and also work directly with startups and investors. And finally, Viaka Capital serves to connect the exceptional founders and investors that we have in our orbit that are part of our community. And central to this are demo days that we host a few times a year and our growing Angel Syndicate, which was launched and made its first investment earlier in 2025. So if you're interested in any of this, please get in touch. I want to bring us to today's event specifically. We have a really exceptional panel to discuss the future of AI in MENA. But first, I want to just introduce and thank our sponsors who make all of this possible. So first one, I want to shout out Supportful and Fadibulos in particular. Supportful is a software engineering company based out of Lebanon. They help tech startups build teams and MVPs. And really core to their mission, beyond delivering, amazing technical resources, is reducing the brain drain in Lebanon. So they allow Lebanese engineers to work with global companies and on global products while remaining in their hometowns in Lebanon. And they provide staff augmentation services and engineering teams, as well as fractional CTO services. And I know many members of Viaka's broader community have actually already benefited from Supportful services and have had really great experiences with them. So I can't recommend them enough. In a similar vein, Taft has been a supporter of Viaka for some time now, particularly thanks to Abe Wahbi, who's a partner there and head of Chicago's VC practice group, which works both with emerging growth stage companies and venture funds. And even though Abe is based in Chicago, he runs a national practice, and they have a ton of experience, working with companies that are riding and building the latest wave in AI. So Abe is quite familiar with the concepts and the ventures that go into building companies and funds in this space. And again, we have introduced Abe and Taft to so many members of our community, and they all speak just super, super highly of work with Taft. Lastly, I wanted to turn things over to Peji just to tell us a little bit about Carta launch before we get started. Peji, you want to jump in here?
Can you just give me rights to share my screen, please?
I have the slides that you
Amazing. Okay.
so I can go to them next.
Awesome. Well, thanks for inviting us back, Hani. Great to be here. So really quickly, guys, Carta is a Silicon Valley-based tech company. We're your source of truth for equity management, fundraising, ESOPs, valuation, and pretty much everything you need as a startup to grow and scale from the moment you incorporate all the way up until IPO. I'm based here in UAE, so super excited to say we've actually opened an office here, covering the whole GCC and MENA region. I just came back from Rise Up in Cairo. We're at all the events across the region. So feel free to connect with us. We're expanding in the region. We're localizing. We're supporting local founders here grow and scale, and actually connect them to investors internationally. We have offices in London, in Singapore, in the US, obviously. So really looking to make venture capital global and bridge that gap. I have so about 3 million employees use Carter globally to manage their options and equity. Obviously, ESOPs are a very powerful tool for you to build and grow your team. If you want to learn more about ESOPs, feel free to reach out. There's a ton of resources online as well. We're seeing it become more and more common in this region. We're moving away from, cash-based incentives to more long-term employee stock option programs, which ultimately is going to drive greater value for your organization and have more longevity in your team. So definitely something to look at if you don't have one already. And lastly, I'll leave you with a bunch of tools. So we've just Launch. So this is a free platform for early stage founders. So if you've raised less than 1 million and have less than 25 stakeholders on your cap table, you're eligible for this. It gives you access to your cap table. You can build out and model your cap table, your fundraise. There's a data room in there. You can raise safe notes, bunch of tools you need to get started and build your company. So if you scan the QR code on the next slide, you can download Carter Launch and or just literally type in Carter Launch on Google and probably the first link you can sign up through there. And with that, I'll hand over to our amazing panel. Super excited for today's topic. And thanks for having me again.
Thanks so much, Peji and Carta. And yeah, huge thank you to all of our sponsors, as I mentioned. So we're going to dive into things. Sami, Yabroudi of Flatiron Data, and myself will moderate the conversation. We've got three exceptional individuals who are quite literally building the future of AI in MENA and investing in it. Waleed is the general partner of Sukna Capital. Nour Hassan is the CEO of Tarjama and Arabic.AI, and Nour Taher is the CEO of Intella. So, with that, Sami, I'll turn it over to you for some framing, and we'll get started.
Hey everyone, Sami here. Nice to see you all. Nice to see such a lovely inaugural Viaka chat. I think the themes. I mean, when we think of like tech and MENA, it often just boils down to kind of implementing the same things in MENA like on a delayed time scale. And what I found very exciting about this one is that I think finally we're starting to see ways in which MENA stands on the global stage with unique advancements in its own right. And so there's a few ways of accomplishing that. One is resources. So we know that the Gulf states are opening data centers and partnering with OpenAI in ways that are very hard to replicate just because of the sheer financial scale. But then there's also the unique challenges that MENA presents in terms of fragmentation and dialect and all those things introduce a harder problem to solve, but they also introduce a moat. And so we'll get into more about what I mean by that as we talk to both Nour and Nour. So Nour and Nour have both built companies that had to solve problems that more global AI just wasn't able to solve. And so we think about Arabic, there's 25 dialects and 150 subdialects. There's also all the different countries, there are different laws and regions and customs. And so you can imagine how all of that introduces challenges that standard AI just hasn't solved. And then, of course, Waleed is helping find more entrepreneurs and help them make their own moats so that MENA can continue to advance on a global stage in a way that stands with and not just behind. And so with that, I think we'll turn it over to Noor and Noor. Let's go, Noor Taher, you're first on my screen. Perhaps you could tell us what you could summarize for us what products and services your company offers.
Sure. First of all, hi, nice to meet you, everyone. It's a pleasure being part of this panel, and thank you, Viaka, for organizing this. So, as Intella, just to shed a quick background, we started the company in 2021, and our goal was to curate labeled data sets for dialectal Arabic. When we first started, AI was not a thing in the region, at least back then. So we were framing ourselves as a data tech company because we spotted a gap, the lack of labeled data sets for dialectal Arabic. And when we first started curating data, we realized very early on that dialects, you capture them via speech. So we've built a speech-to-text engine. Today, it's recognized as globally market leading for dialectal Arabic, averaging 95.7% across the board. And this became our core engine for data labeling. Soon afterwards, we realized the gap is not in foundational models, it's in AI applications. So using the output of the data that we were labeling via speech to text, we went after an end-to-end use case for call centers, because again, we are a B2B company and we were spotting where are conversations taking place. Call centers was a no-brainer, and using the data sets, we were able to Arabize and fine-tune 8 other AI models to generate a comprehensive use case of not just turning voice into text, but turning voice into actionable business insights. So that's what we offer today. It's mainly for customer experience, quality assurance, targeted for large enterprises, governments, and call centers.
Very cool. Nour Hassan, could we trouble you with the same introduction, please?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, and definitely thank you, Viaka, for organizing this panel. So my story is somehow similar to Nour, but I'm focused more on the text. So I built Tarjama 16 years ago, and Tarjama became the largest translation company in the MENA region, working with B2B customers, large enterprises, government, health sector, consulting firms. So throughout the years, we have accumulated first the knowledge on how to deal with Arabic language, and then the data. So we sit on a very large data set that is extremely of high quality. So this allowed us to eventually build neural machine translation engine. That was before large language models were out actually to experiment with them. And then we built our neural machine translation engine similar to the Google, but with a full application layer that allows you to upload a document, get it translated, put a link of a website, get it translated, put a deck and get it flipped. So we tried as much as possible to solve some, I would say, acute problems when it comes to dealing with Arabic documents, especially the PDF ones. And then when large language models got launched, it was no brainer for us to fine tune a small language model, which is a 14 billion parameter model. Our model is small in size, but it does much more than translation. It does generation of content, Q&A, translate, summarize, review, spell, grammar check. And obviously, it deals with documents in a very, I would say, intelligent way. And this allowed us eventually to build on top of it multiple applications for customers, whether it on the RFP or proposal, or like document generation for reports, or even translation from start to finish with flipping, with even like redrafting or summarizing. The model today is compared to all the big large models in Arabic, it almost beats them all in quality. So this is in a nutshell what Arabic.AI is all about today.
Very cool. And could diving into that a little bit more, could you tell us a little bit more about the talent required to build these to do what you did? So what does your engineering team look like? How is it distributed across geographies?
So we have almost 53 now engineers. We actually, when we started, we were like about 20. So we grew with obviously size and time. Our engineering sit in Jordan mainly. We have some engineers in Egypt and some engineers in Europe to help in the fine tuning of the model.
And those engineers are mostly machine learning engineers, or they're kind of distributed?
We have engineers like engineering team, and then we have the data science applied scientist engineer LLM engineers.
Very cool. And Nour, how does that compare to your operation? I know that you guys are definitely younger. Let's clarify that for the audience. You're muted, Asa.
There you go. Majority of our team is in tech. We grew the team super fast. Today we're 72, and I would say 80% are in AI and tech. Our take on it was, and the reason actually why we started Intella, very unfortunately, AI was being built in the West. So we always say, and that the title of this session is like, where is the MENA region in that? Where is the Arabic language? Well, you never expect a Japanese to build for the French language. The same thing applies to us. We are the greatest adopters of technology, but we need to get into the building game. So Omar, my co-founder, he has his PhD in machine learning and data science. So it really helps that he's fully leading our technical and AI teams. But what we were doing when we first launched it, we made sure that we are hiring people who are as passionate as we are for building for Arabic. If you're talking about data set labeling, fine-tuning models to Arabize them, you need native speakers of the language. It's not a surprise that both Intella and Arabic.AI and previously Tarjama were able to find those gaps in the market because we're locals. This is our mother tongue, and the same thing reflects on the engineering team as well. So this was our thesis when it came to hiring. All of our teams are Arabs, all of our developers, different nationalities. Of course, Egypt is our main hub, but we also have freelancers working with us from all over the region.
Maybe, Sami, sorry, just one question to build on that a little bit. Do you feel like for both Nours, like that mission, I guess, and kind of the vision that you described, Nour, how important it is to have Arabs building AI for Arabic, like, is that something that really helped you attract talent, or was it more just this is an interesting technical problem to solve?
To us, it was definitely the vision, because a lot of people thought we were crazy back then. Like they thought big tech is going to crush us. They thought that we wouldn't stand a chance. Again, AI wasn't as hot as it was today. So definitely it was more of a vision of, and this is what we sold employees. We were saying, are you sick of being just adopters of technology? Siri does not understand us. Alexa doesn't work. ChatGPT gives recommendation as if you're a Western white man, predominantly speaking. So this was the starter of any conversation that we would have with anyone who is joining Intella, because things could change. Things could change overnight. We don't offer the best benefits necessarily, but we believe that the vision is there to stay. And we want to turn the region into a region of builders. So I'd say this was the primary point of focus and still is for Intella today.
Very cool. Identifying the moat and building for a bigger challenge, and then leveraging on the global stage. And where would you say for the talent, are there trends in terms of where your talent is like getting its training from? Are they coming from particular universities? Are they self-taught? Are there any noticeable trends for either Nour on that front?
So from our side, it's a mix of everything. So our engineering team are from we actually go after certain university in the region, and mainly like in Jordan, as I mentioned, because we have like the hub is in Amman, but we have lots of engineers that are self-taught, and out of passion, they became really passionate about generative AI and how to fine-tune large language models. And honestly, our data science lead, who's actually from Egypt, is someone that started with us on the neural machine translation engine. And when we told him, we want you to experiment with how to fine tune large language model, it was completely foreign idea for him. So he had to download lots of papers, read, and then he did the fine tuning. But because he has a full understanding on how transformers work, how to build a neural machine translation engine, it was not very difficult for him to figure this out. So we do have the talent. It's all we need is basically to give them the means and give them a chance to experiment, and that opportunity that does not come a lot to people, unfortunately. In the like, even for Tarjama, it was even more difficult before, because don't forget, Tarjama started as a traditional translation business. So we pivoted into technology, and that was already very difficult to embrace this into Tarjama internally, right? And then when we wanted to attract talent were like, no, we're not interested. We want to be like in the big tech companies. We're not sure about what is this mission about. But when large language models got launched, and when we were very serious about what we're doing, surprisingly, I'm receiving every single week message from someone in the big companies in Silicon Valley saying, "Can we join?" And they're all Arabs. And and again, to confirm what Nour said, we focus on Arabs because we really need people that speak Arabic language, understand the language very well, and can actually help us solve the complex problems around the language, like the embeddings and everything. When it comes to Arabic, is completely different. Like the RAG we built for Arabic is completely different than the RAG that you can find like off the shelf or built for English models.
And uh, Hani, do you have a question? I have one more question before we turn to Waleed, but if you have something, please go for it.
No, feel free, and then let's bring the convo to Waleed about kind of the investment landscape.
Great. So, by the way, if you have questions, and you for the audience, if you have questions and you put them in the chat, we will endeavor to work them in. And this one, I'll rephrase Yahya's question a little bit to the question and embed it into the question that I was going to ask, which is, okay, the Arabic obviously has its own challenges. Are there other regions or language groups for which now that, once you get like a comfortable MENA operation going, where you would be more suitable than kind of like the global models? So can this moat be extended to other regions or areas with similar language challenges, I guess we'll say?
Definitely. So I'll answer your question, and I'll be fair to Yahya. I'll answer his question as well without sugarcoating.
I saw that one coming. Please continue.
I'll start with giving Yahya the courtesy and answering his question, which is, don't you think that vision also narrows down your market? It's something that I come across all the time, especially when fundraising, and Waleed can talk more about this component. But my personal 2 cents on it is, guys, our region is a very, very, very lucrative market. And my take as a founder, I would rather acquire 10% out of like the MENA market than compete to acquire 0.0001% out of a global market. General framework: conquer your backyard first before trying to take on the world, right? We're here today. There's a first mover's advantage. It's quite solid. We're seeing companies from the West trying to penetrate our own market. It makes no sense for us to let go of that so that we can want to be like global in the sense of what global is. Moving to Sami's question of, is the mode transferable? Absolutely. If people don't know this, Arabic has similarities with other languages as well, such as Farsi and such as Swahili. Farsi, we use the same alphabets when it comes to the text. Swahili, 30% of the dictionary is shared. So if the mode definitely gives an edge to tap into other languages as well. As Intella, we are definitely Arabic first. When we are done capturing the size of or the market share for the MENA region, Next, we would champion other underdog languages. We're not interested in building for English. We're not interested in building for languages that are already being built for. We're interested in representing the underdogs in this because we believe that this is where the market is not bloody, and this is where there's a real chance in order for us to be able to make a difference.
Hello, Nour, Nour and Hassan. Um,
Yes.
so you guys built those all those proprietary models for the specific challenges of Arabic, all the dialects, all the quirks, all of that. Are there other languages and regions where they have the same level of challenge there?
So for us, we're focused only on Arabic language. As Noor mentioned, Farsi is already something that we would definitely experiment as next. But for us, Arabic at this moment is a language that's not cracked, that's not figured. And to answer the question on the market, because that's, by the way, a question again, as Noor mentioned, fundraisers. When you're fundraising, investors will tell you, what's the size of the market? Can you become a unicorn tomorrow? Because this is how most investors view any company they want to invest in. Like, can you become a unicorn tomorrow? In 2 to 3 years, can you IPO? These are like almost questions that probably all of us face today when we fundraise. Um, if I just look at the market in size, the market is just not only in the region. So everybody that wants globally coming into the region, that needs to operate, that does not speak our language globally, and our market, as everybody know now today, is a hot, viable market that's attracting almost all foreign investors to come to the region. Everybody that wants to come into this region needs to have an Arabic angle to their business. They need to speak our language as well. They will not be able only to operate in English. So I work with global companies and many multinational companies, and the Arabic language is actually sizable and sometimes bigger than clients in the MENA region, which means there is definitely a market and a market outside the region as well. When you connect to the East and the West, you need Arabic language. So you need that market as well. So once we feel we are enough or saturated in MENA region across like GCC plus Levant, we're definitely expanding. We already or expanded to the US recently with registering an office, and the conversations we're having with clients are basically viable conversations. Yes, we'd love to look at your model. Can your model save us 1, 2, 3? And mind you, the conversations we're having with investors, with clients in the region that already have models globally, they still talk to us for Arabic, which means the models they have, they're not satisfied with the level of quality fluency in Arabic. And not only that, there's an element of security as well aspect to things, because we built models that are small that you can deploy on premise to secure your data. So we really understand the region very well. We understand what a client wants and expect when they want, basically, when they're talking even about a cultural nuance. That's something global models can't do. So the market is definitely more than enough and can allow companies to grow. And there are plenty of companies in the region today that became unicorns, replicas of global companies, and got either IPO'd or eventually acquired by global players.
I think that's a great actually transition to hear a bit from you, Waleed, about the VC landscape, looking at the region from the VC perspective, both like how do you think about the market size as well as where do you see kind of like advantages for founders building companies in the region, and like what are some of those areas that really excite you at Sukna?
Thank you, Hani, Sami, and Viaka. It's a pleasure and honor to be in the company of Nour and Nour. You can feel the passion, the mission drive, and all the accomplishments that we're all proud of what they're doing. So basically, for me, AI, is a game changer. And when I say that, basically, it's a new way of building software. Natural language allows computers to do something they've never been allowed to do before, which is now they have access to what humans have access to without filters, without having to structure the data, without having to build anything special for them, which means now computers can move from being just tools to actually things that accomplish work and give you outcomes and benefits directly. So the total addressable market we're talking about now is much, much bigger than before. Before it was just IT. Now we're talking about, anything that can be called work is now targetable by large language models, agentic AI, and generative AI. And that is extremely important for us because it means you can basically attack all established categories and leapfrog established players there, the incumbents, and do something that they've never done before. And I'll give you a few examples from our portfolio. You can see why I'm so excited about this space. One of our investments is called Protinia out of Cairo. They built a small language model called Ankh, doing protein discovery for drug development. Late last year, they were able to win a huge contract with Amgen, hundreds of millions of dollars, plus royalties in Boston, competing with hundreds and hundreds of companies around the world. And this is out of the region here in out of Cairo. Another one is called Anecdote. This is an ex-Kareem mafia duo, Abid and Pavel. Anecdote is like a co-pilot for product managers. OpenAI is actually a customer of theirs. If you watch Sam announce the releases during Christmas time last year, they're utilizing Anecdote to do that. They have Grubhub, Dropbox as customers, and they're also very successful in getting businesses and customers here in the region. Another example is a company called Muzan, based here in Riyadh. A very strong natural language processing team, NLP team, NLU. Now they have one of the strongest fraud prevention offerings for banks and fintechs, utilizing their AI capabilities. They just released Usus, which is a generative AI stack that is suitable for the enterprise, no hallucination, and allows you to do stuff that used to take a long, long time and prohibitively costly. And now you can do it for almost free. We do invest in a lot of these companies, but we don't invest in them because of the technology per se. It's because of what they are able to do. And when you talk about the region and what kind of structural advantage the region has, I'd like to flip that question on the other way around. What are the structural disadvantages that we used to have that AI will release us from? Before, if you're developing something really sophisticated, you needed really expensive labs, you needed infrastructure, you needed a lot of government support. Now with AI, a small lab anywhere in the Arab world can actually compete head to head with many of these players. Muzan, for example, they beat Cohere, one of the generative AI enterprise champions, in a recent deal, for example, and they're based here in Riyadh. So those structural disadvantages that were limiting what we can do out of the region, a lot of those limitations are gone. So now we can, do something that can leapfrog the competition and new paradigms of doing things that, will allow us to reset the game in so many categories. The other thing that is also exciting and relevant to this discussion is the push for technological sovereignty. And you mentioned the high spending and digital infrastructure here in the GCC, for example, where tens of billions are being spent on establishing data centers and cloud and compute in general. Grok is coming in, Stargate, OpenAI's project with Oracle and SoftBank. They're going to set up a 5 gigawatt data or compute in UAE. Saudi is doing similar things. And this digital infrastructure, the main idea, because if you look at it from afar, you're saying, why are they building all of this? That's just too much for the region. But the idea behind it is these governments want to export compute to the rest of the world. Like Nour mentioned, there are lots of other parts of the world that could benefit from what we're building here. And this goes beyond the linguistic utility. Like I said, accomplishing work, doing workflow, giving the end benefit. That is something that MENA has the advantage in terms of energy, capital, talent, location, geography. We're all set up really well for this. And that's why part of our thesis in Sukna is we want to invest in MENA-based players that can actually go global. And so far, we've seen that. One of the other examples that we have in our portfolio is Classera. Classera utilizes AI in EdTech, among other things that they do. Today, they operate across 40 countries around the world. They just got into Thailand recently. So this is something new. MENA hasn't been experiencing this before. Now, with the rise of generative AI, with the rise of these capabilities, with the policy making now very supportive of this push and seeing it as a national priority for them, I think this is the right time to be building in MENA.
Nice. And I would maybe just ask the whole group kind of a follow-up question to that, which is, from afar, we see the big news about investments, obviously US president traveling to the region, talking about really massive projects that will take years to kind of come to fruition. So I'm interested in what you see as like the second degree or the knock-on effects of just those announcements even. Like, does it stir just a bigger interest locally in building with these kinds of products? Is it just noise and you guys, the real builders kind of tune it out? What do you see? How do these kind of splashy announcements actually impact, the ecosystems on the ground?
So I'm gonna answer this first because post the visit I received lots of phone calls from global players that came from the US to Saudi and to the UAE to explore expanding, opening offices, and how can they work on the ground in the region. So as we all know, being from the region and working in the region has its own like ways of doing business. So for anybody that is coming new to the region and wanna operate in the region, it's not really extremely easy for people to come and operate and work and land customers. There are not because of lack of contracts. There are contracts and business for them, but because the nature of how to deal with customers, understanding clients is completely different than operating in global markets. So we've noticed that lots of people coming to the region want to partner. So they want actually to have a local partner that could potentially help. There are lots of conversations about acquisitions as well, because first you need talent in the region. If you are going to work with a government entity, your engineering team need to speak Arabic. If you're going to build an application or a workflow for a customer in the region, you can't be like a non-Arabic speaker. That's completely foreign to the documents when you look at them, or the workflows, or even speaking to the engineering team themselves at the customer in the government entity. So they need basically talent and resources. And it is very difficult for global players that want to come to the region to choose one market. They want to go to all markets. And when you want to go to all markets, you cannot operate with one license for all these markets, which means you have to set up in every single market to be able to operate. For them, it is much easier to partner or acquire businesses in the region. Third and foremost, and I think this is the most important thing that we are seeing change, foreign investors used to come to the region to take money from the region and leave and invest in global companies or in their markets, never putting a penny into this region. Now that is shifting. If you want to take money from the region, you're going to give back and you need to invest into the region. And that's a mandate coming from all the sovereign wealth funds across the region saying you have to give back. This will move things into the region. The region will have more liquidity and the region will have more acquisitions. The region will have more partners. So I think definitely it has a positive impact. On top of all, you will start seeing talent wanting to move into this region, which we never had that. So
That
you'll
was
get a lot of transfer of knowledge.
that was quite an interesting anecdote that you mentioned about talent in Silicon Valley of Arab descent messaging you, and seeing if there's. I mean, I can understand all the dynamics that would excitement and perhaps sadness. Let's say. So I can understand all the dynamics that would go into that. Um,
I can actually give an example to that. So one of our
please.
portfolio companies is called Athir, based here in Riyadh, by a duo, Abdurrahman and Abdurrahman. One of these Abdurrahmans used to be part of the silicon team at Apple. He's a PhD in wireless, in RF engineering, basically. Decided to come back home and establish Athir for wireless communication, really fast, fiber-like performance. And VCs are known of not liking hardware. Hardware is hard, as they say, but we decided to invest in them because they were doing something different. And in fact, they were able to compete with one of the biggest hardware, companies, Huawei. And they were able to replace Huawei with a better design, better performance, and one-third the price, even cheaper than the Chinese, because it's a totally different design that is actually utilizes AI and the modulation of the signal, because at 60 gigahertz is very sensitive to even light. So this is something that is really exciting to see these people with Arab, roots coming back and contributing to what's happening in the region.
So that's a pretty good anecdote. Thank you for sharing in with that one. Waleed, when you invest, so I think both Nours mentioned timeline, like pressure from VCs to to grow by a certain timeline, right? VCs in the US typically have the fund has like a limited term, and then you need to complete your exit for that term. Is that a similar? Do you have a similar setup at Sukna, or is it different for some reason?
No, it's similar, GPLP structure, as they call it, and 10-year +2 optional extension years. We do have a disadvantage here in the region, which is the capital pool that we get money from is missing some critical players that the US has. For example, endowments. Endowments are known to be patient capital. And if you're investing in deep tech, 10 years sometimes is not enough. You need a longer cycle. 15, 20 years. And it is sometimes challenging because we're seeing a lot of attractive deep tech plays coming out of, academic and research entities, but the cycle is much, much longer than a 10-year fund will have to do it. So it's very tricky for us. Luckily, our fund size is not huge. We're only $50 million for this fund. So we're able to be a bit selective with a few companies. But if we want to increase the number of companies we can support, then definitely we need to see the LP base include awqaf, for example, endowments that have a much, much longer time horizon. And impact is also something that they emphasize more than the other types of LPs.
Noted. And Nour Hassan, I know that you recently raised. Was that what are the timeline? What are the did you what are the timeline looks? What does the timeline look for that one? Like, was it what was it what we would think of as a standard investment, or were you able to get some sort of different arrangement?
So it took me 5 months to raise and close, which is typically fast considered to the amount we raised and the region. Usually it takes people longer. So I would maybe like to call it probably luck, is we managed to get a lead investor that was committing the majority of the money, and then everybody else followed. We were like, if we wanted to take more cash, it was available for us, but we didn't want to dilute. So it took relatively 5 months. But again, you have to take into consideration, and I think this is not very fair if I was raising a business that did not have revenue. So Tarjama has revenue, it's profitable, growing, and the AI that we built already is mature, right? And we started engaging with customers, doing POCs, and we have some revenue booked from it. So it's not like a typical startup from zero. But I want to add to what Waleed was mentioning. We already have a problem in the region, which is usually growth capital. When you are going into Series B and after, and you need big tickets, that is challenging in the region. So I think I still believe there is a gap in that. Series A, seed, pre-seed is relatively easy. Maybe Series B to a certain degree if it's 20 million, but once you want 50 million and above, it becomes extremely challenging and you have to attract global investors.
Understood. Hani, over to you.
Yeah, maybe Nour, Taher, since you also have, been raising recently and your company is a little bit younger in its life cycle, just add the perspective of raising as a founder rounds that are more like the pre-seed, seed. You're pitching more of an idea, an earlier stage technology. What was that like in the region? And, how have you been really successful doing so?
Our first round of funding was a nightmare. I'm still traumatized from that. So I was raising in 2021. AI was not a thing. Got rejected 37 times. People like investors were telling me to pivot into fintech, which was hot at the time. They believed in the founding team. They totally didn't get what we were trying to build. They told us big tech would crush us overnight. The only reason how I was able to raise our first round, which was $1 million, I had to call Huawei in China and say, listen, you're out of the US market, you're having issues with Europe. This can only mean you're double downing on MENA and you need me. So if you're coming into MENA, I have a speech to text engine. I'm your vehicle in order to localize for this market. Luckily, just 2 weeks before that, Alexa had recalled 20,000 units after selling it in Saudi Arabia, because when people went in and installed it in their homes, it could not understand the dialect. So I got a deal with Huawei within 10 days. Then I took this deal. I went to every single VC who rejected us. And I said, big tech is not going to crush me. Big tech will partner with me. I'm not here to compete. I'm gutsy, yeah, but I'm not suicidal. I'm not here to go head to head with big tech. So this was our first round of funding. Second one, I thought it would be easier. Then the VC winter came, and it came and it stayed for some reason. It was in 2023. We had revenue, we had big names, yet fundraising was still a very brutal exercise. So for any founders who are here, you're not alone. I think everyone talks about the announcement and the amount and the new rounds of funding. Behind every announcement that you see are hundreds of rejections and VCs who have passed on this opportunity. So the reality of it, it's a brutal exercise. Now, alhamdulillah, this round relative to Nour was very fast. We're closing within 6 months or less, but it's because we were at the right market at the right time. AI is booming. We got a global VC to lead the round. This gave credibility for others to just follow easier, I would say. But other than that, I believe that this is the exception, not the rule. So for founders, fundraising is a brutal exercise and it's not as easy as it seems. And the announcements don't show the darker side of the story, even when it's at the best of moments.
Yeah. I guess, with some of the time we have left, I would love to take the chance to look a little bit into the future and talk about the use cases that you all feel like are the kind of next frontier. I don't want to say that we've totally solved, but we have a good, we have good technology present in like chatbots and call center assistance, financial analysis assistance. Those things are already performing at a very high level. But what are some of the new use cases that you're building for? And I'd love to hear from everyone, but I know Nour Hassan and Arabic.AI that you all have some that you're, recently announced and are really pushing forward. So maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. So for us, it's what we're doing is technically we're focusing a lot on our experience. Our experience in Tarjama is basically on the document level. What could we potentially do more to the document when we have an SLM? And then what applications could we build on top of that? And what workflows can we add? So basically, We have already 300 customers in Tarjama. We understand enterprise very well. We know how painful it is for clients to integrate technologies. We believe that enterprises today, from legacy businesses to even enterprises to consulting firms to government to health sector, have issues in embracing AI. When you give, and this is, by the way, with like statistics that we got from our customers that use, like, and this is, by the way, top consulting firms that have 1,500 licensed ChatGPT enterprise, 1,500 Copilot to their team. And then when they look at the ROI on the investment and what are people using it for, you discover that they're using 6 to 10% of the tool because they use it mainly to draft documents, write me an email, uh, maybe draft a deck for me, analyze this, summarize. It's basic. And this is because it is not going into their workflow. What we're doing is we have the SLM model that we have ability to deploy it on premise for clients that care about data security, which means banks, health sector, government, consulting, and a lot of like other customers. So we have as well because of experience in building our model is we have the data pipeline ready. So we have experience in fine-tuning models, creating data for clients, cleansing the data. So that's already comes as an addition to the model itself. Then we built our agentic platform, RAGs, knowledge graph, every tool that our embedding model, reasoning model, evaluation model, all these are built by us to eventually help the customer get their data, and then post that we help them with our platform. And our ability today to deploy agents for clients is like in 2-3 days, sometimes in hours if it's a simple task. Sometimes it takes weeks, but nothing into months, right? On top of this, we are doing our own applications because we believe there are gaps in the market in certain spaces when it comes to the document intelligence piece. This is what we focus on basically few applications that we're pushing to market. So in the coming 2 to 3 years, this is our focus in Arabic.AI. This is where we see a huge gap. And eventually, the market will determine which domain we're going to focus mainly on. We picked only 4 domains for enterprises, and then we're going to go deeper probably into one.
That's a very strategic, approach. Sometimes even more mature companies that have been through a lot find it hard to emotionally commit to focusing. Nour, did you have something to add there, or are you guys sort of where you are right now, or are you looking at new capabilities as well within MENA? I think we established.
Yeah, no, we're always looking to new capabilities. Our R&D team is one of the largest teams internally. However, we like money. So we don't believe in building something that is so futuristic that people are not ready to adopt yet. We were the market leaders for the longest time, and it was exhausting educating the market. So what I've learned the very hard way is make sure that clients are willing to pay for a product before you build it. Within the enterprise game, it's not necessarily, Hani, that you always need to be innovating something new. Enterprise is super broken, and it's not that ready for a really mature product. So most of the hype that we see around AI products are B2C, and for a reason, because when you come to implement AI within a bank, you're bounded by security, you're bounded by internal system architecture, so many constraints on what is it that you can actually deploy. So we use it the other way around. Every single CEO or decision maker that I've talked to wanted to go to the moon. And I start with, great, give me your data. They're like, what data? I was like, you want to build all of those very cool AI products. How? So you need to have your own labeled data sets. It's the engine that's behind any other model that you're going to adopt internally. So this is our thesis and ethos as Intella. We land and expand. So we're currently deployed in governments, banks, insurance companies, telco companies, automotive. We're sector agnostic, but then we let the clients dictate what are we building next. and they pay for it before we actually build it. So we sell products in beta, and they implement it in beta. And then once we solidify what are the USPs when it comes here, we take it across other industries. And we believe that this is the way to scale, because we need to protect our runway and we need to protect our growth metrics. Chasing hypes is not always, hypes come and go. It's not always, although sometimes it's very tempting, but I don't believe it's solid decision making when you're thinking of startup survival.
Also sounds like a very solid and practical strategy. It seems built up through some hard lessons as well. Waleed, we would love to give you the chance to close us out. Either you could respond to what they said, or if you have a thought about the weather, you could let us know that, and just any closing thoughts you might have.
Thank you. Yeah, very quickly. So Bill Gates has a famous quote that I think is very relevant here. He says, we tend to overestimate the impact of new technology over the short term and underestimate the impact of that technology over the long term. And I'll give you a historical example, a fun example, but very, very relevant here. The steam engine, before the British, invented it, was actually invented several times before throughout history. One of those instances was in the Ottoman Empire, when they did a steam device, and what they did with it was they used it to grill kebab for the Sultan. Very nice kebab, but that was it. It didn't cause an industrial revolution. So if you go through through the history of technology, you'll find out that there's always a lag between a new technology, emerging technology, a frontier technology coming to the scene, and then the actual realization of that technology and disrupting the market, and creating new paradigms of how to do work and how to improve productivity. I think we're seeing the same thing here in AI. We're still in the beginning. We're seeing nice successes. I believe there's a lot more. As an early stage investor, I believe that the transformer model is going to be disrupted soon. It's 10 years old. So who's going to replace the transformer model? Who's going to change the way we do the attention mechanisms? Who's going to change the way we do tokenization, the training, the inference models, that stuff at the fundamental infrastructure level? There's lots to be disrupted. Also, what's being built on top, like Nour said about the application, the agentic AI, what kind of new paradigms you can build there, what kind of categories we can reset and make our MENA-based companies the leaders of those categories. That's what keeps me excited.
Who's going to fund it? Who's going to fund all of those breakthroughs?
It will come. It will come. I'll give you a quick example. I'll give you a quick example because I'm old. I can provide this word of wisdom. In Saudi Arabia, by end of 2015, all of VC in Saudi, just Saudi, was only $5 to $7 million. All of Saudi, $5 million. Shoot forward very quickly to 2023, that we ended the year at $1.4 billion. I think we can just take Saudi to 10 billion, MENA much, much higher. I'm very optimistic. We have all the ingredients we need. We just need to execute on those, and we will see the positive results, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, all. Hani, do you want to close us out?
I just want to thank, everyone on the panel for their time, and kind of like Waleed said at the beginning, we're honored to have you on here, and we're also so proud to have all of you pushing our region forward in this way. Just what an inspiring panel to listen to. So thank you all so much, and looking forward to staying in touch. And thanks to everyone who tuned in as well. And Sami, thank you to you for helping moderate.
Hardly anything. I think I was watching the participants as we crossed the 12 o'clock mark, and everyone stayed on. So I think that was a good vote of confidence. Thank you all, and until next time, have a good day or night, depending on where you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.